Ladies and gentlemen, g'day, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Economics Mate, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about what kind of settings you should be running in order to make your gameplay better, and obviously to get to that sort of unicum or pro gamer status. So let's jump right in and, of course, talk about the graphics. Now, if you're running a device that can actually handle high graphics, I would suggest going for the higher graphics. It helps out quite a bit, especially the water quality and the object terrain quality, because it gives you an idea of where you can and cannot go on the map. Of course, the tank quality, it helps that if it's high or no. I mean, realistically speaking, in terms of statistics and whatnot, it's not going to give you the biggest advantage possible, knowing that your tank has the highest settings and whatever, and that you've got the best graphics. But in saying so, it's good enough. I think it's good enough, and it'll really help you sort of understand where you can sort of penetrate and whatnot, if you can actually see the tanks better and have better effects. Of course, draw distance, make sure it is on high as much as you can, so that way you can actually see better. You can basically see objects and tanks at a distance a lot better than what you can't. Now, do keep in mind, if you are running a lower end device, I would suggest going for low to medium settings, not necessarily the high. Obviously, I'm running a better one there, so it helps out. Now, for anisotropic filtering, which basically enhances the clarity of surface textures at different angles, I would run it at ×8, just to give you that better sort of texturing and better sort of filtering in that sense, and make it a bit more easier to hit your targets a lot better, especially when it's, when you've got targets that are at different angles and whatnot, that you're not going to get confused. Next, of course, you running full screen anti-aliasing. Sorry, I'm a freaking the bloody spelling on this isn't good. Basically, what this does is it improves graphics, the graphic quality, by making jagged edges of objects look smoother. I just run ×2. There's no point in running anything more than that. Now, for frames per second, I would suggest going 60. 30 is just terrible. I would suggest keeping it at 60. You can run it at 120 if your device can handle it, but 60 is perfectly fine and doable. Now, for camouflage, I mean, the camouflage is not going to really affect your in-game statistics or your in-game sort of the way you play the game, or how it's going to affect you, because it's literally just aesthetics. There's no point in having it or not having it, so it's purely for the sake of just the design of the tank, basically. In terms of flora quality, I would suggest turning it straight away off. But for shadow display, keep it at high. Don't keep it at low. And the reason why I'd say take flora display off, because if you're in like a sniping position where there's grassy areas and whatnot on a hill, and you're trying to get shots off, but the grass is sort of covering your peripheral vision, it helps so much in sniping, especially when you're sort of you're in your sort of you've enabled the scope, and you're trying to basically shoot at a tank in a hold down position, for instance. It doesn't block your vision, and it gives you much easier shots. So definitely take it off. As I said, shadow display, keep it at high, because it gives you an idea where the tanks are in a sort of area, and it sort of doesn't muck it up. In terms of the lower resolution, I keep it on dynamic, and the reason why I keep it at dynamic is because I want the game to sort of adjust depending on if the device is too hot, or if my device cannot handle it whenever I'm playing or streaming, for instance. So that way it keeps it at a dynamic thing, so it changes the settings on its own to adjust to how the phone is performing, or how the device is performing. Now, shell hit marks, definitely turn it on. That way you can tell where someone's hit you, so therefore you make sure that you angle up so you don't get penned again. And you can see where you've hit that person. Let's say, for example, you hit them in the ammo rack, and you say, okay, well, I hit them in that spot right there. If I hit them again, I'm going to hit the ammo rack again. So that's the idea. It's meant to sort of give you an indication of where different weak points are in a tank that you've hit. Like, let's say you've hit them on the engine deck and you've set them on fire, you know exactly which spot you've hit them, because if you hit them again in that same spot or somewhere along the lines of where it is, you're going to get another penetrating shot and you're going to be able to set them on fire again or hit their ammo box again, and it makes a really big difference on how the gameplay is set. Now, notice how grass in aiming mode is unable to be switched on and off. That's because I've switched the floor quality off completely. And the reason is because, as I was saying, when you're in aiming mode, grass, you don't need it at all. So don't bother. Now, obviously, I've put track tracers just for the sake of it. It's more so aesthetics. You don't need to if you're solely focusing on just playing the game and getting better and getting that sort of the pro sort of thing. Now, HD textures, some people might say you don't need it. I recommend it. If your phone can handle, I definitely recommend it because it helps so much, especially with the PBR sort of upgrades that some tanks have had. It helps so much in that aspect. Suspension, again, suspension is not really something that is needed in Blitz. It's just an aesthetic sort of thing. I tend to run it because my device can handle it. Otherwise, I would suggest just taking it off altogether. Now, colorblind mode, don't change this unless you're legitimately colorblind. You don't need to run this setting. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my settings for graphics. Now, let's move on to controls. I want you to understand that the joystick needs to be on fixed, okay? So make sure your joystick is on fixed, because if it's in dynamic and hybrid, it really just sucks. So keep it on fixed, okay? Now, tank auto turn, don't turn that on, ever. Do not turn it on under any circumstances. It's horrible. Don't turn it on. Reverse inversion, do not turn that on at all, because it basically reverses everything that you do, completely the opposite. So don't do that. Dynamic aim, switch it off. Switch it off. It's terrible. I don't like it. I do not like it at all, because you were able to cancel a shot. If you sort of move your turret around, you were able to cancel a shot. Whereas before, now it's just like it'll shoot regardless. So just no. Now, auto aim, have it with a button. Do not have it disabled or in arcade or enabled. Have it with a button. It just makes it so much better, so much easier. Now, camera sensitivity and joystick sensitivity, just keep them at 100 each. Just keep it 100% each. It's the default settings. It helps so much. Second fire button, you don't need to have it if you don't want to. Lookout area, 100% have that. Because what you want to do is with the lookout area, it helps when you want to look around you without moving your tank or your turret. It really, really helps. Because let's say you're aimed in a shot, you want to look around, make sure there's no one around you. But as soon as you move your tank or your turret, your bloom, your reticle just goes off. Your aiming time resets, your dispersion resets. So it's essential to have a lookout area. Now, reverse zoom, I would recommend having it because it helps you knowing what the hell is behind you without having to physically look behind you as much. So I would run it, definitely. It's pretty good. In terms of the consumables, don't do that. For ammo bar, keep that open. Remains in expanded state after switching to the shell type in battle, keep it open. I always keep it open. Just keep it open. It's so much better. Instead of having to open it and then pick your shell type and close it again, just keep it open. Always. It helps so much. And of course, left-handed, don't do that. Now, going to customizing, what I would do is I would have the fire button as big as this. I'd have the scope button right here. And I'd have the lookout button right here, obviously. And then the joystick here. And of course, everything else in between over there. And the reason for this is because if your fingers are as big as mine and you're running on like a bigger device, you need the space in order to do it. And you need the icons to be bigger in order for you to play. Now, of course, if you're playing on PC, it's a different story altogether. PC is a lot easier to run around in. But this is how I run my ones, basically. And that's about it, guys. That is literally it. Those are my settings that I run. And I would recommend running if you want to become better in the game and you want to basically run like a pro. This is what all the pro players do when they're running in the game and running in tournaments and competitions. You see them and you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting the way they've done it. Oh, they've got the ammo box open, blah, blah, blah. That's how they do it. So, guys, I hope this video helped. Hope this gives you a bit more insight on how a pro player thinks. I'm not a pro player in any way, shape, or form, but I have taken inspiration from how they play and how they do their settings, so it's very, very important. Guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think, whether or not this has helped you or not. And as always, peace in the Middle East. Look after your friends and family, and then stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.